Well, to get us started, hello everyone, and thank you for coming to another episode of Sip and Streamline. I unfortunately do not have a really cool sip today, but I do know that Pat does have a cool sip behind his screen. I just have a lemon water. Oh, you can't even see it. You guys see it. Um, Nothing fun, nothing interesting. I wish I had some mint to throw in there or something fun, but unfortunately, I don't. Pat, your sip?
I mean, shout out to our fans that have been posting comments of what they've been enjoying as well along. I have a old fashioned today, so I am enjoying a nice old fashioned on this beautiful day as we talk about AI and the future of AI and what we see organizations adopt and some of our personal opinions. So first of all, Isabella, as you're taking a look at AI, what is the one thing, or if somebody encounters you and says, "What is AI?" What do you tell them?
I think when it comes to the conversation of AI, and I know we've mentioned this before on some previous episodes, is how AI could be very overwhelming to organizations in understanding how it operates, within the Microsoft 365 boundary, specifically for Copilot and what that actually entails. But I think a lot of times what's missing from that conversation is understanding what processes need to take place before perhaps introducing AI to your organization. So things like exploring automation, because a lot of times AI works hand in hand with automation components. So kind of taking a deeper dive into that, I think is very helpful in understanding what is actually possible. What about you?
Yeah, I think the key thing with AI is that it's a cutting edge technology, and a lot of people don't necessarily know where it's going to fit. And frankly, I don't think anyone has an answer of what it's going to look like in 5 years from now. It's an emerging technology. When we think about it, most people don't love emerging technologies. They just let others figure it out first. And what I'm seeing is that people are actually taking those and wanting to adopt those emerging technologies faster. When I think of AI specifically, I think there's a consumer area where it helps you out in your everyday life, right? Of summarizing what you're working on, summarizing your schedule, some of those really basic items. And then you have the really advanced portion of AI in terms of actually like autonomously solving problems where the agent or the technology will solve it. Then you have this weird gray area in the middle where I think automation fits in probably more than AI at this current base. When I
Yeah.
talk with people, they always say like, "We want AI to solve this," and it's like, well, you just need automation to solve it. You don't need AI overall. So, when you take a look at AI, I think the key thing there is figuring out where it fits in your life, work and personal, and then coming up with a plan on how you can use it and leverage that to the most, effective area, right? Whether it's image generation, whether it's a video creation. I mean, you can take a large document now and turn it into a podcast with, a very simple prompt. Yeah, and I think about if I was, back in the education space and as a either a teacher or even, a student, how valuable is that to take a 20-page article and turn it into a back and forth podcast, right? Without having to, recreate that type of piece and having conversation there. So I guess personal life, Isabella, where do you see AI come into your personal life?
Yeah, I actually was having a few conversations with friends and family surrounding this topic specifically because I think a lot of people use it very differently. I know some people that use it almost like it's a Google search engine, just typing in their question and hoping for an expansive response. Um, but I think something we hone in on a lot of times in these conversations with organizations or clients specifically is learning how to prompt, understanding what steps to take to actually get the results that you want. And I think for me personally, I look at it as more from a guidance perspective. I can't imagine being a college student with AI because I think that definitely removes the authenticity from different essays and things like that, or tasks that maybe we had back in college or back in school,
Hmm.
um, and kind of removes that personal piece to it. But I do know a lot of people, from a more interesting perspective, that are using it from, a therapy standpoint, learning a little bit about themselves specifically, whether it's communication styles, whether it's job opportunities, areas of growth, mental health, procedures that they can do to benefit their life, whether it's a personal routine, a personal budget to excel in their finances and things like that. I see that being really, really useful for people. I mean, specifically in my age too, when we're just kind of getting started in the workforce and understanding what's out there. I think that's where I see it being super helpful.
I would agree with you. I think on that career development perspective, there was an organization that was talked about during the Microsoft 365 conference during the keynote, the second keynote, where they highlighted how this organization is using AI to help essentially interview people. So when you apply to a position, they're screening the resumes, they're providing recommendations. And the stat they threw out was that when a human does it, it's about 75% effective of finding the right candidate. And when their tool does it, it's about 83% effective.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
yeah, I was not quite sure I'm ready for that. But again, I
Yeah.
think an organization that collects a large amount of resumes is key. In my mind, AI should do all the things nobody wants to do, right?
Yeah.
That's where it should focus that energy on. So when I think about that, it's, meeting note taker, right? That's probably the easiest thing out there.
Mhm.
Summarizing different items and making it be easier to comprehend or hear it in a different perspective, right? So if I think of being a student again, take those large articles that frankly were boring to read and I went through when everything was on paper. You probably were a little bit more on an iPad or on a computer, but like
Mhm.
just give me the main points, right? I don't need to read everything to get the
Yeah.
main points out of it. And then the other piece, like my wife just used it recently, we have a rental property. And so using it to actually draft the announcement of the rental property. And she was really impressed at how easy it was to use to make that sound more interesting and more intriguing, right? So it saved a little bit of time, on that front. So I think it's have it do things you don't want to do, at least starting out to become comfortable. But from an organization perspective, I think the key is that most organizations are looking for some sort of automation to solve that problem, right? So I don't automation plus AI maybe, but ultimately I see organizations adopting AI like Copilot or Llama from a Google platform or ChatGPT and other tools out there for sure.
Yeah, I think I know we've talked about syntax before on this
Yep.
specific topic, and I think um, from a document processing perspective, I do see it being very helpful for organizations to utilize, from creating or generating templates for documents and kind of removing that repetitive behavior of copying a whole document, putting in another document, just saves a lot of time from that aspect. But I think something else that we haven't really touched on quite yet is using it from the perspective of learning something completely new out of your wheelhouse of knowledge. I think it could be a very useful tool for that. So I could see that being really helpful for younger generations who
Yep.
are looking for new jobs and trying to understand what job descriptions actually mean. I know that was a challenge for me when I was applying to jobs right out of college. So definitely using it to your advantage, but also using it to level up in terms of your knowledge base and where you stand.
Yeah, I mean, there's even built-in agents now that come with Copilot to help with that career coach perspective, where we can just fire it up and say, I'm looking for a new job. Here's my resume. And it goes and finds jobs that match that. Researching, right, of finding that information quicker, faster, where you may have gone out to Google and had to click on 4 or 5 links to grab that information, summarize it, and then obviously cite your sources, of course, right?
Yeah.
We never plagiarized anything in my life. Hello, Encarta 1995 on CD. It is a true thing, and I think it's fair. And frankly, learning about it, you can learn about things, a lot of different ways. And when you learn about something, oftentimes you either need to hear it from someone, you need to read about it, you need to see it in action, And it's just another way of reading about it, right? It's no different than if you went out and read a Wikipedia article. The
Right.
difference is it's bringing that information to you and allowing you to interact with that. And that's valuable. I think that's the key piece of it, of some of those interactions. Now, the scary part is I've heard people having relationships with AI and then,
That is terrifying.
go down that path. However, like there is the ability for you to ask clarifying questions, right? Like this
Yeah.
doesn't quite make sense to me. Can you explain it to me as a pirate? And then it will convert that to a pirate. And not every one of our sessions are going to have Pat drinking an old fashioned, but maybe we should continue.
Yeah, I think I recently, because I recently moved, I built a bunch of furniture. And when you follow directions when building furniture, obviously try to not fight with your significant others. But at the same time, that's how I kind of look at AI from like a directional standpoint. Getting those step-by-step directions and following them really allows you to hone in on the task that you're doing without kind of the added stress of what do I do next. So I think using it again as like more of a guideline approach,
Yeah.
I think has been very helpful for me in my experience. I think in terms of what we can see in the future, or what I would like to see in the future, is organizations adopting it from the aspect of um, what is possible and kind of preparing to level up. I keep using that term, but I think it does matter in the sense that all organizations are looking into different forms of AI. As we know, there are many out there, and
Yep.
I think eventually it's going to be imperative for everybody to know how to utilize, and you might as well learn how to use it to your advantage, I think is my kind of opinion or point on that.
Yeah. I think when I look at this technology, going back to the emerging concept, some technology would take years to become really adopted in the market. I don't think we have that anymore, right? I think it's
Yeah.
needed immediately for it. So if someone's not getting on board with at least understanding it, they need to get on board, right? So I think they're gonna get left behind. And honestly, if you do one of those boring and dull tasks that nobody wants to do, I think AI is going to be, that's where I think AI is coming. It's coming for that specific job, that specific role, the ones that are harder to fill. I focus heavily in on contact center space. So I think we're going to see contact centers really evolve in the next couple of years to be more self-service driven. Now, keep in
Mhm.
mind, there's good self-service and there's bad self-service. And when I think about good self-service, the concept is where it's essentially identical to a human, right? Of
Mhm.
interacting. And there's elements of bad where like it just didn't answer my question. I had to ask to elevate it over. And we'll get there, but hiring people that want to be on a phone all day is really hard. And
Mhm.
frankly, not easy to retain and keep people. Someone that's just along to a meeting to summarize, right? There's better use of people's time to listen and engage and then provide, get the summary afterwards. I know we use those meeting summaries on a regular, consistent basis. And what I like about
Yeah.
it is I can choose which meetings I need to go to now. I'm in control of that. I don't have to debate which meeting I need to attend. I can really choose and say, this is where my value is. This is
Mhm.
where I can sit back and learn more.
Yeah. 100%. And I think preparing your organization for that shift and for that change is important in terms of kind of next steps or introducing AI, or even automation into your space. I think it's really a space where you can thrive and have, people on your team, again, just really increase their knowledge and in the technical space as well. Um, but I do think, over time, we'll see it come out more and more in terms of organizations using it. And I'm excited to see it. I know I use it all the time. I can't live without it. It's my best friend now. Um, so I think we will definitely see it more.
Yeah, for sure. So with that, I think we've talked about AI enough. On our future episodes, we'll bring others on to have some conversations about a variety of different topics. So if there's something anyone's interested in, let us know as we continue to bring guests on to help kind of drive the conversation of just understanding technology and everyday life. But before next time, cheers, Isabella.
Cheers.